Per the request of one of our viewers, we are going to be taking a simple HTML website and converting it into a simple React app. Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of DevDrawer. Today I'm going to be taking a simple website and converting it to a React website. So this is a request from one of my subscribers. So if you have any requests for tutorials, I can try to do them as much as possible. So just before I get started, I want to preface that my knowledge with React is limited. I've done it a few times, but this is probably the first time I've ever actually tried to create a website in full using previously established HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in a React app. So essentially what we're going to do is start a React project over here and copy and paste some of the HTML code, the CSS that we're using, and all of this can be found inside of the GitHub profile or GitHub repo for this project. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I want to do is kind of show you, this is just a normal website. So it has like a hero section, some generic information, a footer, and a header. And then each one of these pages link out to just some individual pages using some images that I've downloaded, some dummy text, just some basic styling using Sass and stuff like that. So no jQuery, no Bootstrap or anything like that is involved in this project. However, you can add that kind of thing to your project if you want, but on this one I just wanted to kind of keep it as simple as possible to make it all work. So one of the first things that we need to do is get out of our HTML folder. We're going to be using this as a reference, and again, you can download the source code from GitHub, but for right now we're going to be using this as a reference for our React project. So we need to go ahead and create a folder for React and then get into that folder. So I've backed out of the HTML folder, and again, this is just for reference, so eventually you won't even need this as part of your React project. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to initiate a React like a create React app inside of another folder inside of this React folder that I have. So I have this HTML folder here, and then I'm going to create a React folder inside of it in order to do all of our React. Again, just a reference here, this isn't how you would actually set it up in the end. You would have your React all by itself, but I'm going to be using this to kind of show you, the HTML that we're copying and how we're getting it over and stuff like that. So let me go ahead and start with the React stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and create this React HTML folder here. I'm going to open up my terminal, and it's in the main React folder. Make sure you're not inside of your HTML folder. Again, just for reference, you don't have to actually create the HTML folder, so you can just create a project itself. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use NPM. If you're not familiar with NPM, it's one of the things that helps you install React apps on your environment. You can go to react.js.org to find out more information about how to get started. But let's go ahead and type in the command. So npx create React app, and then I'm just going to call it React HTML. So this process is going to take a little while, so I'll just kind of stop the video here and then pick it up again whenever it gets done. But basically it's going to build us a folder here called React HTML, which it's already doing, and then it's going to start adding all the packages that we need, and then we can get in started and actually start using NPM to run it.
A few moments later.
Alright, so React has completed, and I am going to now cd into the React HTML. So I'm inside of my React folder now, and I'm going to do npm start, and that should start our local instance of React in our browser. There we go, so it's opening up, and I'm going to leave that open for now. So this is where it's starting at. You can see this is like the generic website that you get whenever you first load up your React app. And this is where we're going to go to start editing it, and I'm going to leave this open because we are going to be editing it and it's going to be updating. So if you ever need to reference back to where it is, then you can just click on one of these links by doing control click or command click, and it'll open up in your browser for you. So first thing we want to do is kind of remove the default App.js information, and we're going to then go in there and start coding for a home page or about page and stuff like that. So let's browse out to our App.js, and right now we are returning this information that's here. So I'm going to come in here and we're going to remove all of this, and it's not returning anything right now, so let's just do div because it has to have something in there to return. So if we look at the React app now, it's just a blank page. So as I'm doing this, you'll be able to kind of see these updates. Move my screen around a little bit so I can see better. Give me just a second. So you can't see what I'm doing, but I am moving it around so I can see what I'm doing. Alright, so now let's come in here and start adding some pages to this. So let's go ahead and remove the SVG import because we're no longer using that logo. So let's just not have it. What I want to do is create a folder structure that we're going to use. So we're going to create a folder inside of our source. It's going to be called pages, and then a new folder is going to be called components. So our components is going to be something that's used components. It's going to be something that's used like the header, the footer, and then our pages is going to be the actual page content. So inside of our pages folder, let's go ahead and create a new file. We're going to call it home.js, and this home.js is going to be the home page. So we'll eventually put our HTML in here that we're going to copy from the HTML folder, but for right now let's just go ahead and get it set up. So we're going to do import import React from React, and then let's do class home extends React dot component. And this is kind of like creating a class for this JavaScript, but we're just there's some other things you can do. What we're going to be doing, just to kind of speed along this process a little bit, is we're just going to be doing a render. So we're going to do render, render, and then we're going to return. And right now I'm just going to return, let's just do like a h1, and then test. Okay, so then at the bottom of this page we need to export this class. So we're going to do export default, and then we called it home. Now we switch back over to our app.js file, and we need to import home. So let's try to keep all of our stuff together. So we're going to add a section up here for our pages. So we're going to do import home from pages / home. And now we have our home file, or home.js, being imported into this so that we can use it. So what I want to do is we are going to just create a section that allows us to display home. Essentially that's going to be inside of this div. We're going to do home and then /, and that should return our HTML. Let me click over there. There we go. So we have our header test. So right now, if we, anything basically that we pop in is, the home is there, but if we go to like something like about, it's going to display home too, because the only thing that it's currently returning is our home. So inside of our home, let me go ahead and copy over some HTML from our HTML for the index.html. So I'm going to leave the footer, and basically everything inside of this main is what I want to keep. Because whenever you're doing React, you have to have a starting point and an end point. In this case, it's the h1. So in our other cases, it's going to be the main. Now we have some errors here because there's not a proper closing tag and an opening tag, and that is because you have to, let me decrease that, you have to put your in slashes for your input types and stuff like that in order to make it where it'll, because React is looking for that. So you can kind of scroll through and see if there's any errors that are present. Right now it looks like there's no errors, but we have errors here. So let's refresh the screen, and home, nothing was returned for render. Okay, so now let's see what we got to add here. So I have my return. I don't know why I erased that, but we need to have that inside of our parentheses. So let me go back down and get rid of that. There. Okay. So now we have this HTML that's being rendered, and we have everything in our main tag is wrapped inside of this return, so it's returning everything on the HTML side. So if we switch over to here, you can kind of see that you got the same field HTML stuff that this one has. It's just there's no styling on it. So I want to add some styling to it, so I want to import our style sheet. So let's see, I need to open this up, and we're going to go inside of app.css. Alright, so we don't need any of this stuff that's currently in the app CSS. We're going to open up our CSS here, and I'm going to just copy over, let's say, the style.css. You can copy over either one of them, but I'm just going to copy over this in case we need to edit anything later. And as you can see over here, it is now showing our React app kind of looks like our other site over here. We still don't have the header and the footer because we did not add those, so let's go ahead and add our header and footer. So those are going to go inside of our components folders. So let's see, components, and I'm going to create a new file, and it's going to be called header.js, and I spelled that wrong, so let me rename header.js. Okay, so inside of this header.js, we're going to again kind of create a class. So we're going to do import React from React, and then we're going to do class header extends, and let me make sure that this is uppercase. So class header extends react.component, and then we are going to do the render again, and then we're going to return, and again you have to have something to start and finish it. So inside of this return, I'm just going to do a header, and because we're going to eventually end up copying over that code. Then go down here and we're going to do export default header. So back in our App.js, we're going to come back over here and we're going to add another section. So let's add a few more lines, and we're going to do import header from components. So components slash header. And now we have our div home here, so we want to have our header come above it. So we're going to do header and close that tag out. So now we have our header, components header. So what did I do wrong there? Oh, I forgot the period. Okay, there we go. So let's refresh that. All right, so now we have our, right now it doesn't contain anything, but we have a header that's coming over here. So what I want to do is inside of, let me close that, and we're going to reopen our index.html, and everything inside of this header we want to copy down to our header.js. So we are going to, instead of just rendering header as it is right there, we are going to make sure, I don't know why my VS Code is removing some things, but we need to have those open and close parentheses. And now we're going to save that again. Again, you need to come in here and check for any kind of errors. You can see there's no corresponding closing tag, so we just need to go in there and add that slash. And now we have our header over here, which if we click on any of these, obviously it's not going to show anything because we're linking to that index, our index home.js. Okay, so now let's do the same thing we did for the header for the footer. So I'm just going to copy this over and change this around. So we got our footer here, and then inside of this components, I'm going to create a new file. It's going to be called footer.js, and we want to have the exact same information in here. So we're going to do import. So import React from React, and then we're going to do class footer extends react.component, and then inside of this we're going to do again the render, and we're going to return something which we can copy over from our index.html. So we scroll down so we can find the footer. Alright, so we have our footer here. Now we want to add this inside of our return, and everything looks good there. There's no issues. Alright, so now we have that, and now we just need to export it. So we're going to do export default footer, and then inside of our App.js we just have to come over here and add our footer. There we go. So now we should have our footer down at the bottom. Again, the other pages don't work. So what we wanted to do now is to add these additional pages, and in order to do that we have to install a React DOM. I think it's what it's called. So I'm going to do that down here, and I'm actually going to stop the server just so it doesn't cause any conflicts. I'm going to open it back up. We're going to cd react.html, and inside of this I want to run a command called npm install react router DOM, and then we're just going to save it. So while this is installing, it's probably going to take a few seconds. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video again so you don't have to watch, but then I'll get it started whenever it gets started.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Alright, so if everything went fine, you should be at the position that I'm in right now, and we're going to import the router in order for us to be able to use it. So let's I'm actually going to put this above the CSS. So we're going to do import browser router as router, and then we're going to also import our route and switch. This is going to allow us to why did I do that? It's not open parentheses, it's curly brackets. We are going to use this to create a router switch here. So let me finish it off. So we're importing this from the React router DOM, and that is going to give us the ability to add some routes here. So inside of our div, we're going to use router, and we're going to wrap all of our header, footer, everything inside of that, and then inside of our header we're going to do a switch. So switch here, and then we're going to do our home in the middle of that switch. So the first thing I want to do is take away this, and so essentially using that displays the page, but again, unless you're using like a single app, it's not really beneficial because you can't change pages. So what I want to do is give it a route path. So we're going to remove this home, and we're going to do route exact path, because we want it to be, if it's on the slash, we want it to use the component home. So we're going to do component equals home, and then we close that out. So if we're on this single page over here and refresh, oh, I got to start it up again. So we're going to do npm start to get our server started again, which should open it up in a new tab for us. There we go. Okay, so while we wait for this to load, okay, so now we're on our home page. So if we click over and do something like about, it's going to show nothing inside of the content because we don't have a path set up for that yet. And we use the exact path on this because it's using the slash. We want to make sure that the slash or a blank will show the home page. The other ones won't have to use the exact. So let's say we want to, I'm going to copy this, and we are going to remove exact, and we're just going to put path about. So right now it's linking to the home. we're going to do about, which should break it because we're not actually importing anything. There we go, so it is broken. So now let's come over here, and inside of our pages we're going to create a new file, and we're going to call it about.js. So inside of this about.js, it's pretty much the same thing that we did for the home page. So let me close that again. Let's do import React from React, and then we're going to do class about extends react.component, and then inside of this we're going to do render, and then we're going to return something inside of this. So we're going to do main again, and then at the very end of this we have, let me go ahead and put this on a separate line so we kind of keep it concise with what we're doing. So now at the end of it we're just going to export default about. Alright, so then we need to call that page the same way we called our home, and now this home is going to change to about, and this reference is also going to change to about. So there we go. So right now it has nothing in it, but if I come over to this about.js and I add hi to it, now you can see hi is added. So what I want to do is I'm going to come into my about.html, skip past the header, we're going to go to the main, and we're going to just copy all of this inside of this. Now again, we need to look through, obviously we have an error at the top, so let's scroll back up and we can see our image is not being closed appropriately, and now it is. So now we have the about page. Let me zoom out a little bit. There we go. So we have the about page and the home page, but we still can't get to it by accessing this because it's HTML. So we'll get to that part, changing that in just a moment. But for right now, you can kind of see that we have these two pages. So let's go ahead and do the same thing that we just did for about us. We're going to create a new one, and we're going to call it contact.js. And then inside of this, I'm just going to copy this and change it a little bit. So we're going to do contact extends React component, and then inside of here we're going to do render and return, and right now I'm just going to do main. Okay, and then we need to come down here to export default contact. Alright, there we go. So over here we need to make sure that page is added, and let's do contact. Okay, and then we need to add another route here that we're going to change to contact, and then we're going to use that class contact. Okay, so now if we go to /contact, there's nothing in it because it's blank. So let's go over to our contact.html, find our main tag, and we're just going to copy that into this. Okay, so we're using form elements on our contact. This isn't working anymore. Okay, so let me close out of that. So we have form elements inside of this, so we need to go up and look. So we have our placeholders here. Just add a / to each one of them. So I'm sorry, we have our input. We're going to add a / to each one of them. Okay, and then up a little bit further, we have a BR that needs a / as well. All right, there we go. So now we have our contact page, we have our about page, and we have our home page. So the 3 pages that we need are created. The footer and the header is created. So now let's go and modify these links. So I'm going to get out of these pages because I do not need them anymore. And home.js. So inside of our header, we need to make these links actually link to where we want them to go. So we need to add an import here. So we're going to do, so we added the React Router DOM, and a part of that is NavLink and Link. So we're going to import NavLink and Link from React Router DOM, and that's going to give us the ability to add some navigation links down here. So instead of using an ahref, we're going to do navlink, because this is a navlink. You would do the link to do like a regular link, but for right now these are in the navigation, so we want to make sure that they have, you know, active abilities and stuff like that. So we also need to remove the slash here, and or the href, and it's going to be 2, and that should link off to our home page. So let's do the same thing here. So we're going to change this to navlink, and this one's going to go 2, and we're going to remove the HTML from it. Let's go ahead and remove the HTML from this one and change this to a navlink and our href to a 2. So now if we click on these, it brings us to our React pages. But one thing you can notice is whenever I click on a page, the active link, because I copied the header from the home page, it has class active on it. What I want to do is make it where whenever you click on, you know, about, it not only highlights the about, but it also removes the highlight from the active. So we're going to remove our class active here, and then we are going to add a function to it. So we want to make sure that this one again is exact, so if it's on the slash page, it'll also do this. So we're going to do active, so active class name equals active, and then I'm just going to copy this. We don't need the exact on the other links, we just need the exact on the home page because it has that slash in it. So we copy that, then we copy that. Okay, and as you can see over here, now it's only updating and highlighting the page that we're on. And if we inspect here, let me pull that so you can see it, remove that. We can come over here and see that our about has the current page and the class is active. If we switch over to our contact, you can again see current page, class active, where it's no longer on the about. Okay, so that kind of puts us where we have our pages created, but one thing that we haven't taken into account is the fact that React app shows for everything. So we don't want it to show for, actually, you know what? Before we get to that, the website itself should be responsive. So I'm going to pull this out. Actually, I'm going to switch over to this first so you can see how I did it. And then I'm going to pull this to another section so that I can just minimize it. And let's take this and 100%. So right now we have this menu that doesn't do anything because we have inside of our folders over here, inside of this JavaScript, we have this initialize.js, which essentially opens and closes this menu so you can see the navigation. So what we need to do is take this, and we're going to add this code to our App.js. Not our App.js, where is it at? Index.js. Index.js. So let's go ahead and we can keep most of this. We're not using index.css anymore, we're using app.css. And then let's just keep the report web vitals. You know, you don't necessarily need it, but I'm just going to keep it in there. All of this code right here is basically what's rendering it, so we're not going to mess with that. So right below report web vitals, I'm going to paste that code that I just added to it, and everything looks good. There's no issues here. Let me go ahead and add. Let's see if it works. Let's refresh. There we go. So now our JavaScript that we're using to open and close this menu it now works, and we can go to other pages. So I need to add something to the JavaScript to make it where it closes. So let's go ahead and do that right now. In the about, let's just say we're on the about page. I need to add something else. So we're going to do nav.add event listener, and we're going to do click Then we're going to do the shortcode function. And then inside of this, we want to do menu.innerHTML equals menu, and nav.classList .remove visible, because that's the class that we're adding up here. So let's refresh this, and now whenever we click on a page, it should close the menu. There we go. That's what I was wanting it to do. Okay. Alright, so as far as, like, you know, it's responsive, so you can use my CSS. I mean, it's just basic CSS. And then again, we're using vanilla JS here, so there's no need to import Java, jQuery or anything like that. If you want to use Bootstrap, you can. If you want to use jQuery, you can. Just for this tutorial, I didn't, to kind of simplify everything. So let's go to one of these pages. Now, at the top over here, it says React App. I want to change that. But in order to change that, we have to install React Helmet. So I'm going to, again, close out of our server. I'm going to open up the tab. We're going to cd into our React HTML. And normally you wouldn't have to cd every single time you get it. You need to do this. It's just because I have the HTML folder in the same place. Usually whenever I open up the terminal, it would open up directly into this. But so you wouldn't normally have to do that unless you're doing this exactly the same way that I am. So just keep that in mind. So then over here, we're going to do npm install React Helmet. And then again, we're going to save. Now, this one also takes a little bit to install, so I'm going to pause the video again, and I'll get back to it.
Moments later.
Alright, so that one was a little bit quicker. Whenever we installed the router DOM, I think it took longer to do that than it did to actually install React. So it took a little while to get there. Okay, so let me see. I need to. Oh yeah, we're modifying the title information. So there's some things that we need to do. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this, close out of that, close out of that, close out of this, and this. So inside of our App.js, I want to create a configuration file that we're going to try to reference. So I'm going to let's close these because we don't need those anymore either. Actually, let's clean this up a little bit. So we're using app.css. That's our HTML. App.js is required. So let's get rid of this test that's here, this index.css. We're not using that. The index.js, we need that. We don't need this logo anymore. And I guess we can keep the setup tests. So I'll just keep those in there. So kind of make it a little bit easier for us to navigate through. Okay, so before I do anything, let me do npm start. Make sure that the browser is started. There we go. Alright, so now that that's starting, let me close out of this. I'm going to create a new file inside of our source, and this new file is going to be called config.js. No, not config.js, JSON. Config.json. So this is where we're going to hold some configuration values. You can do it in like a environment file. I'm just trying to make it easy for you to be able to kind of see how you can add some metadata and stuff like that. So we're going to hard code some information about the app that we're building inside of this JSON file, something that doesn't ever change. So the first one is going to be site title, and actually I need to open the JSON part of it. And then let me close the JSON. Okay, so site title, and we're just going to call our site sample React app. So sample React app, and then the site domain, I'm going to use that. Nope, don't need to do that. Yeah, I do. Okay, so we're going to do site domain. And I'm going to show you why these are important in just a minute. So https example.com. We're basically going to use that as a meta link so that Google knows where to hit certain pages at, and that way we don't have to rewrite it every single time. Okay, so we have our config JSON done. So now I'm going to open up our home page. So let's open up our home.js, and we're going to scroll all the way up to the top, and inside of this, underneath the import React, we are going to do import config from config.json. Okay, so now we have this configuration file that is available to us. And since we have React Helmet, let's go ahead and do import helmet from React Helmet. And we're going to use that to create some variables. If we want to see that our configuration is loading, you can do something like console log config, and that should bring it where we can actually see it. Source config JSON. Oh, I gotta make it uppercase, not lowercase. Okay, there we go. Let's refresh that. Alright, so I'm going to inspect again, bring this back over so you can see it. So let me get out of the mobile view and bring that back down to the top and bottom. So now we're going to look in here and we're exporting this object, site name, site title, so they become available to us in this page. And now you can also see, invalid DOM property class. Did you mean class name? They're just talking about here React uses class name instead of class, but you can update all of those whenever you go to build your React app. It works how it is right now. I wouldn't keep it like that. I would add it actually as a class name just so you're not having any kind of warnings or anything appear. But you're good there. So you don't need to necessarily do that. So we can see that our object is being created. So let's continue on, and we're going to remove this console log, and I want to do a constant title, and this is going to be equal to the title of this page. So we're going to do home, and then this is where that config.site title comes in. So that way we don't have to, if we want to change the title of our company or whatever, you would just go and change it in your config rather than having to change it in every single file. And then let's do a const description equals, and I'm just going to put something in here for this. So create a React app from an HTML website. And then finally, let's using the site domain, we're going to do a const canonical. I think it's canonical. Canonical. I don't even know how to say that, but it's this. It's basically the link that tells Google which page that's on, so it indexes it properly. For this sample, we don't necessarily need this, but if you're building out a real world website, just because of the way React kind of handles the way pages are generated, it may be in your best interest to make sure that you have this inside of your meta. So we're going to do config.site domain, and we're just going to do a slash because we're on the home page. Okay, so the way that we actually use this helmet to produce it, so let me see if I can inspect this. We're going to go to the head right now, and we have our title is down here, so title React app. What we're fixing to do is modify that. So whenever you get inside of your return, you have to put it inside your main, because you have to have your first HTML and your closing HTML have to match. So we're going to have our helmet inside of this. So we're going to do helmet, and then we want to change the title, and this is going to be equal to our title. And then we also want to let me just make sure that it updated. So we go back up here. So title, now it says home sample React app. So we also want to do the same thing to our canonical link. Somebody please tell me how to say that. Link rel equals that word, and then href equals the constant variable that we created for that word. And let's close it out properly. Okay, and then let's create a meta tag. So meta name equals description, content equals, and we don't need to have the quotes around it. We're going to do description, and then close it out appropriately as well. So now if we come back over here, We can see our titles there, the description that we added. It's adding a theme color, so I want to modify that theme color as well. So inside of our Config.js, we're going to create another variable, theme underscore color, and let's just make it, I don't know, let's just do a black. So 6, there we go. Alright, so and then inside of our home.js, we are just going to add that to it. So let's do meta name equals theme color, content equals config dot theme color, and then we close out that tag, and then we can see it over here where now our theme color is equal to black. So we're able to modify the meta descriptions and the title. So if we click over to our about, it's using that exact same title because that's the only one that we currently have configured. And it's basically, it's not replacing it on the other pages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy over this helmet, and inside of our about.js, we are going to paste that down inside of the main, and then we're also going to do the same thing for our contact. And now we need to come up here and we're going to copy these variables because currently it's going to error out saying that it's not defined. So actually I need to also copy over the helmet and the config. So we got our helmet and config, so we're going to do about, and then I'm just going to put in some dummy text here. So sample page about me. And then we're going to take this again, we're going to copy over to our contact page. This is going to be contact me, sample page to contact me. Okay, so now if we look at the description, let me refresh. Inside of our head, title, description, sample page to contact me. Let's go down. So it's adding it here, but it's not removing it in the other place, and our canonical is not working at all. Oh, that's because you don't need to put them in quotes. So let's fix that on all of these. Okay. Alright, so let's go back up, and we have, let's refresh, go to our head, meta description, canonical, and our theme colors down here. So I believe there's probably a way to remove these. I'm not familiar enough with React to be able to tell you how to do it, but I'm sure there's some ways to either replace what's already there or remove them altogether so that it just uses ours. But for right now, I'm not going to worry about that just because I don't know how to do it yet. Okay, so let's see. In our about.js, we are forgetting something. We need to alt. We need to add an alt here. So we're going to do alt equals about me, and obviously that's not me. That's yeah, that's not me. That's a picture I found on Unsplash. Okay, so our index.js, and let's go in there and fix that. So that it's showing us some errors that we have in our code. So if we open up our index.js, and this needs to be there. Link is defined, never used. Image elements must have an alt property, and that's in the header.js. Okay, so the header.js, we are defining link, so I need to remove that. We actually need to put that in our home.js. So let me open up our components, header.js, and we're going to remove that from here because we don't need that to be there. But in our home.js, we do have a link. So if I click over here, this contact goes to contact.html. So I want to make sure that it goes where it needs to go, and that's where we're going to use that link at. So let me see. Let's come over to, where's our home? Okay, we're in it. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so let me do import link from React router DOM, and then we can use this link to link out to this, where's it at? Here. So we're going to, again, instead of doing NavLink, we're going to do link, and then it's still going to be to, and change that to contact. Wait, are we using link in here? Failed to compile. What is it saying? Cannot resolve RE pages. I don't think I did anything that would break that. All right, let me see what did I do. Oh, that's because I'm in there. Let's see. Let me go back and remove this again, because that was not causing the issue. I was looking in the wrong file. Module cannot be found. Pages. Link to contact. Closing link. Link is defined. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, well, it was a non-issue. Apparently I fixed whatever it was screaming about. I just didn't refresh the page. Okay, so now the thing that you can see is the title at the top is changing with the page as we're changing it. So that means that the description and all that kind of stuff is also changing per page. So that'll be better for your SEO. Then we should be able to click on that and go to our contact page. So we still have in our footer that these are not working. We don't necessarily need those to match where it has the bold highlight on it. So we're just going to use the regular link for these. So we're going to come down here and we're going to do link to, and go ahead and get rid of that because we don't need it. Exact. Link is not defined. Okay, so I need to add the same thing I did in the home. I need to import link into the footer, and that should resolve that issue. So there we go. All right. Let me take this down a little bit, and we can do the rest of these. So link to about. Let's remove that as well, and link to. Okay. So now if we click on contact, it brings us to the contact page, about, home. Okay. So that is all working. Click there, goes there. Let me check my documentation to see where I am. And actually, let's look at some of these error outputs. So I'm going to stop the server, and I'm going to open it up again, and cd react.html npm start, and I'm going to see if I can get those errors to appear so we can resolve the errors that are happening. Okay, so in our header.js, the image does not have an alt. So we're going to go over here. I'm assuming that's a logo. Yes, it is. So we're going to do alt the dev drawer logo. And everything is compiled successfully now. So we are good. No errors. All right. I think, let me review my documentation, but I believe that that is everything that needs to be added. Let's see. Okay, yeah, that's it. So essentially what we have from this is we have a, let me see, close all these out. So we've created a HTML website that was previously created. We basically imported it into a React project and then modified it to work with React the way that React kind of expects it to. Again, my knowledge on React is kind of limited. I'm kind of in the learning phase, but I know how to do this part for the most part. You know, obviously there's some things that I don't know how to do yet, so I'm going to continue to try to learn it a little bit more, but this should be able to kind of get you started if you have the question of how do you convert a HTML website to a React app. This should solve the majority of those issues that you may be having. One thing that we did extra was we created this configuration file. Again, you can do this in the environment file, but I did it in the configuration just to kind of show you how you can import a JSON file and be able to use those variables as well. We added our initialize.js from our HTML folder into our index.js. We also added our CSS into our app CSS, created our pages, and created our components for the header and the footer. And basically that is how you would convert an HTML website into a React app. So hopefully this will be able to get you started. If you enjoyed the tutorial and you want to see more like this, make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you have subscribed, thank you very much. But I think that's going to do it for this tutorial. Hope you enjoyed, and good luck with building it. I'll talk to you later.